Hi everyone, this is Dan and this is Norah's Saga, episode episode 1, 2, and 3. And you're probably wondering, why am I doing another video on this thing? I've already done a video on all 3 of these issues, and that's because Norah's Saga is now officially on IndieGoGo again, by the way. It's kind of interesting that people are saying, oh, Norah's Saga, first time on IndieGoGo, when actually it was not the first time it's on IndieGoGo. It's actually been on IndieGoGo before. It's now on IndieGoGo as a collected trade paperback / graphic novel. I think it's like Song of the Fossegrim or something like that. And it's been doing pretty well. I think as of now it's over $30,000 raised, something like that, which is pretty decent for 2021, as the whole crowdfunding craze is slowly pretty much tapered out at this point. There's not many big campaigns going on right now. I think really, if there are, it's kind of a combination of big names jumping into the scene, but for the most part crowdfunding's really slowed down a lot compared to the really hot year of 2020, right? So we're getting into 2022 and things aren't really kicking off real fast for the most part. But anyway, Norah's Saga, why do I want to talk about this? So on the IndieGoGo page, if you take a look at it, they are offering basically all 6 episodes. I didn't realize Norah's Saga was going to be 6 episodes, but kind of makes sense from my reviews if you go back and look at that. This is a very decompressed story for the most part, so it would make sense that you'd need another 3 episodes to really finish this off. So they're offering all 6 episodes for a total of 138 pages of content. So if we go by the 22-page clip that it's going at right now, that would mean that one of the episodes and the other 3 are going to have basically extra pages, maybe a 50% upper, right, to meet 138 pages. And I believe they're offering it at $30 for the graphic novel as is. I didn't take a look at shipping for the most part, but my guess is it's probably going to be around $10, somewhere like that. That's typically what a lot of this stuff is. And why do I want to mention it? The release of Norah's Saga as a graphic novel on IndieGoGo ahead of the release of the last 3 episodes in Walmart basically confirms what I think a lot of people already kind of knew about this company, Allegiance Arts, which is that they have not been doing too well. In fact, on the IndieGoGo itself, they said that Norah's Saga overall across these 3 issues sold about 30,000 copies through Walmart, which, if you think, I believe Allegiance Arts even said that Norah's Saga was their highest seller among all of the stuff that they sold, right? So if $30,000 was, or 30,000 copies was what they sold of these 3, then that means that Bass Reeves, unfortunately, and Red Rooster, the Futurist, all sold below $30,000 total across their 3 issues. So that is not good numbers for comics, right? Especially for something that's available at Walmart in front of everybody, ostensibly, even though the way that they did the Walmart deal was probably the worst way to do retail. They really needed their comics literally right in front of people at the newsstand, like at checkout, really. Like, it really should have, like, the perfect place to put this comic book would have been at, like, the self-checkout stands that Walmarts now have, where they have, like, the magazines right in front of you, because then people would have seen it, and if the cover was attractive or interesting, they just would have literally grabbed it, scanned it, and threw it in their bag, right? You really want to catch those impulse buys, especially in your, like, retail and whatnot. But they didn't. They instead made a little cardboard container and threw it in, like, the video book section, where they're literally going to get compared to My Hero Academia and Dogman every single time. And, you could see the results of that one, right? But anyhow, what's sort of interesting about this turnaround in their release of the graphic novel is they're releasing the graphic novel, which really, if you remember my review of issue number 3, that's kind of where I thought this should have always been, especially the way Blake Northcott wrote this whole storyline. She's very, very decompressed, very, very taking a long time to get to the point of what this is all about. In fact, this issue right here, issue 3, is easily the worst of the 3 here. because it's almost a throwaway issue. Like, nothing really happens in the plot. They run into an ogre, and the boat that they're supposed to take to find the MacGuffin that they're after gets destroyed, and then you get a bunch of other plot threads that get dangled out in front of you, and it's literally a throwaway issue. Whereas issue 1 and 2, there's at least some coherency between them in terms of what the story is going to be, right? So they're collecting it all as a graphic novel, which is the format that really, honestly, this should have been. 138 pages is a pretty decent chunk, and 138 pages of Kelsey Shannon art is certainly really nice, right? I think Kelsey Shannon's art in Norah Saga is pretty good. Again, I think his art in Jawbreakers is the first Jawbreakers, I should say, is my favorite. But this is certainly not bad at all, and he has some pieces in here that are very fantastic, such as this double-page spread that he did in issue 3, episode 3. God, just stop. But the interesting thing about this, for you, the potential person who may be interested in Norah Saga, and again, I'm not, to be clear, I'm neither for or against Mitch Brettweiser. I think on a personal, like, sort of being objective, I was not really, I didn't really agree with his decision making on the whole Walmart thing, especially when it came to Red Rooster in particular, just because it pretty much soured his relationship with, a lot of people in terms of crowdfunding, future Red Roosters, right? I don't know why anyone would back Red Rooster in the future without having the expectation that Mitch is going to do whatever he wants before he actually fulfills that campaign. Now, on the other hand, what makes Norah Saga interesting compared to Red Rooster is you could technically get these 3 issues here, issue 1, issue 2, issue 3, for fairly cheap. Like, I believe they are available on eBay. A lot of packs available on eBay, well below retail, which is $4.98 for this. I think someone sent me a link to, like, I had to forget if it was My Comic Book Shop or Book Outlet or something like that, where they were selling Norah Saga for almost the 50-cent discount that was kind of shown off about Allegiance Arts a while back before. So you could theoretically pick up all 3 of these issues right here, which is 50% of the book in the IndieGoGo campaign, ostensibly. Honestly, not. This is more like, I don't know, it's technically 66 pages or something like that. It's a little bit less than 50% of the book that they're advertising, right? You could get it for potentially lower than $5 if you look around, right? And you can also, and by getting it for lower, you could sort of test drive Norah Saga and see if you really liked it, right? I will say this, I thought the first issue was pretty good. Second issue was a little bit better. And then the third issue just kind of for lack of a better word, just basically shit the bed. It really kind of made me uninterested in this series overall. But here's sort of the good points, to be fair to Norah Saga. It's pretty standard YA fare. So when I mean YA, I mean young adults, which is sort of interesting. That term gets thrown a lot in the United States or North America in general as a genre. But when they mean young adults, they actually don't mean adults. They actually mean basically kids, like teenagers in grade school and whatnot, right? Because again, there's no excessive violence or gore in here, and there's no sexual content. So this series overall is safe for practically any kid in grade school, right? They're not going to be. I mean, honestly, I could give this to a kid in elementary, and I don't think they would feel, like threatened or in danger of any of this stuff. There's nothing Blake Northcott is doing here that is overly adult, right? So if you have potentially kids or relatives in that age group, I mean, Norah Saga is a fairly safe comic book to give to them as a gift, right? If I guess this is their thing. Again, most of the drama in here is fairly stereotypical. There's a lot of, OMG LOL type of humor. There's a lot of like, ooh, look at my smartphone kind of thing. which I think at this point is almost a sign of like boomers because it's like young children and teenagers at this point know what smartphones are and know what they do. It's not really that big of a deal anymore. But if you have people that potentially would be interested in this type of genre, this is a safe comic book to get to them, and you can get it online nowadays for fairly cheap. I think even you can get digital copies off Allegiance Art's website for fairly cheap as well, right? So what does that mean? That means you can test drive 50% of Norah Saga before you consider backing a graphic novel format, which in my opinion would be the superior format for Norah Saga, especially with the way Blake Northcott and Kelsey Shannon are going about, telling this story. Like, let's be honest, these little floppies don't make sense when most of this stuff is like a quarter story every floppy, right? It makes way more sense for a bigger book to do it. So, being fair to Blake Northcott, Kelsey Shannon, Mitch Brettweiser, this is actually, a good decision, in my opinion, for how they want to go about it, right? Now, $30 is a little pricey, but again, it is 138 pages, so it's not like you're buying one of those Comicsgate 48-page to be continued later. Ostensibly, Blake Northcott can finish a story on 138 pages. If not, oh my god, I don't know if I would trust any story by her at that point if she can't finish one at 138 pages. But I think she would be able to. So I think it's a fairly good bet to take a look at Norah Saga if you are interested in this genre and you are looking for something, more appropriate to like actually own in terms of space and whatnot. If you're looking to save a little bit of money, well, you can look online and you should be able to get these floppies for very, very cheap. You also can look for like digital copies and stuff like that. I think Allegiance Arts has that kind of stuff. So not too bad for the most part. And I think the right direction for Allegiance Arts in terms of how they're going about it, unless they go back and really change the way that they tell stories or change the way that they market at Walmart, etc. Right? If they're not at the front checkout line, with all of the other magazines, then you might as well just give up, because they're not going to go compete head to head with manga or other stuff in that regard, because it doesn't make sense from a price point. Even from a price point of Norah Saga's graphic novel, right? 138 pages of, for a full story and full color is really nice, but again, that's still less value than a manga, right? So here we have let me grab the page, 148 page, or 458 pages at, you can see right here, $19.99 for a Vinland Saga, or Winland Saga, however you want to pronounce it, right? Which I think is an apt comparison to Norah Saga, because Winland Saga is technically started off as a shonen manga, so it was meant for young boys, right? Eventually, it was transferred over to a monthly magazine, which is more of the seinen magazines. They do that stuff, right? So eventually, it was marketed towards younger men, right? But again, typical North America, we call this YA, even though really when we mean YA, we mean teenagers and stuff, and not really like, college students or or men and women in their 20s and 30s, right? But it's an apt comparison to bring out Vinland Saga, because this is also a story set in, Norse mythology, Norse times and whatnot. And you can see here, and this is, by the way, a hardbound. So this is $19.99 for a hardbound book, whereas I think the Allegiance Art book is just a standard paperback. Again, not that that's a bad thing. Typically, American paperbacks are, and North American paperbacks in general, right? I gotta say that because Blake Northcott's Canadian, and I want the Canadians to feel left out, right? The typically North American paperback quality is superior to Japanese or manga import paperback qualities, just because North Americans typically don't use recycled paper. Like even in here, this is a form of, like, it's a very gritty paper. This is a form of recycled paper that a lot of manga publishers here in the West use to save money. And honestly, the publishers in Japan, they also use recycled paper. The Japanese are not known for prestige formats. They do have them, but they're very, they're very uncommon and kind of rare, kind of difficult to get a hold of, right? I think like the Berserk Deluxe Edition that I showed you a long time ago on this channel is about as high quality as the Japanese will go. They're not known for prestige format, whereas in Europe and North America, we typically almost always publish in prestige format. And nowadays here in the West, it's actually rare to see newsprint like Alterna. That's actually uncommon, and most of the stuff nowadays is high quality. Like even this Norah Saga right here, the print quality is really nice. Whatever you have to say about, you know, the story, the art, the people behind this, right? So what my whole point being is that I think the Norah Saga IndieGoGo is actually a pretty damn good deal, all things considered. Now, is it competitive with what American comics really need to get to, which is this? No, not really, but it's way better than it was before, and it's getting, especially if they can basically publish Norah Saga's graphic novel, right, on IndieGoGo, give a whole bunch of goodies and extra stuff to everybody on IndieGoGo, right? Make sure that actually gets delivered to people on time and before any other shenanigans, and then re-release that graphic novel for like, I don't know, $24.99, maybe $19.99. Ideally, $19.99 would be a really good price to bring it back to whatever retail you wanted to do. And in this case, I would recommend all retail, not just Walmart. So they really should be in Barnes & Noble. They should be in Books A Million. They should be both at Walmart, Target. It would be cool if they were at Costco. I think Costco is a great place for this kind of stuff. People typically who shop at Costco are more affluent and have a little more disposable income. If we're just talking about, again, we're talking about the United States here. You can insert whatever equivalent you want in other parts of the world. But my point being is this is actually a step in the right direction for Allegiance Arts. Now, does this necessarily mean I like or agree with what Mitch Breadweiser and, you know, Allegiance Arts have done in the past? No, it does not. But again, you know, you need to recognize good decision making when you see it. And, you know, Allegiance Arts pivoting away from Walmart and more towards, you know, a solid crowdfunding format that then leads into retail, I think is a much better approach to selling and creating comics than what they were doing before. Ultimately, they need to make it to this, right? This is what they really need to make it to if they really want to be competitive, not just in America, but around the world as a whole. But, you know, you got to take baby steps, right? Nothing happens overnight. So, again, you know, some people might throw some heat at me for defending the IndieGoGo, but I'm just being honest. I think it's actually a really good idea, especially if you consider, you know, how, you know, I mean, when we look back at it, how poorly they were doing at Walmart and how much negativity there was surrounded with Red Rooster and a whole bunch of other stuff. I think this is actually a really good approach for them. And again, I personally not a huge fan of Blake Northcott's storytelling style. That being said, that's just my personal opinion and taste. So, you know, you might read this and you might find it to be fantastic. And in which case, I totally recommend you check out that IndieGoGo. If you want to test drive it, these are still available at a lot of Walmarts, book outlets, digital copies, etc. You can read basically 50% of the story or, you know, one of these issues and get a feel for if you like it or not. And then going back to the IndieGoGo campaign, which will give you a superior version of the full story. All for, you know, a somewhat competitive price. Again, you know, a little bit pricey at $30, but, you know, it's certainly competitive with other crowdfunders, as well, I'll say. Anyhow, that's the video, guys. Let me know what you think. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. If you got any comments on Norah Saga's IndieGoGo or any of the Norah Saga or even Vinland Saga if you're a manga nerd like me, leave it down below, and I will see you next time.